EDL A54 Building Finance Module 1 by Chris Scheidemann. So let me start with a little bit about me and my family. I have a wife. We've been married, Amber. We've been married almost 19 years. I have two daughters. We have two daughters, Kendra, who's 13, and Kayla, who's 9 years old. This is my 16th year of teaching. I have been in the same classroom for 14 years and in the same district. I taught 2 years previously in Pratt. Dual credit classes, I teach Introduction to Literature, Composition 1 and Composition 2 through Barton Community College. My father-in-law is a farmer, so during the summers I help him, and I also have my CDL with the bus and passenger endorsement, so from time to time I will drive bus for my district, as needed. My classroom and my building. My classrooms, the class sizes range from 5 to 20 students. I typically teach English 11 and 12. I coach and teach debate and forensics. I try to balance writing and literature. And this is also my very first year in my entire teaching career where I have 7th and 8th graders. It really helps having a middle school daughter to understand them. The high school itself, the classroom sizes range from 15 to 20 students. We have 21 teachers in the high school. We have 2 special ed teachers, and we have 4 paraprofessionals, a librarian, and roughly 240 students. About my district. We are rural. We are considered in western part of Kansas. We have fewer CTE classes offered this year because we've just, through attrition, had less teachers or fewer teachers. We are a 2A school where our average grade size is about 50 students. We have an elementary which is pre-K through 5th grade, middle school that is 6th through 8th, and a high school that is 9th through 12. Looking at the common themes with school level governance, I found all of the sources and I just directly quoted them, and the citations are below. School staff, parents, and the local community should be involved in resource allocation and programming decisions. They should have direct input because they will have the most expertise and what can help the students most. Spitting patterns are the responsibility of the local school boards, whether they're aware of them or not. Principals as leaders of their school buildings and staff have unequaled insight into their individual schools, their needs, and know which resources are needed most urgently and longevity-wise to help their students. Principals, of course, do not need to wait for their districts to propose any of these ideas. They can ask directly instead, whether it be to the school board, to the superintendent, or whatever. District officials need to do their part, too, by pushing control over dollars down to the school level, as some are starting to do. Students and adult success and well-being. Reading First provides federal funding or money to help students implement robust reading programs that utilize scientific-based research to support their success. Because reading is such a crucial skill, if it started at a young age, it will have more benefits longevity-wise. Beyond reopenings, the funds will be critical to help students recover from academic and mental health challenges induced and exacerbated by the pandemic. This is a problem that it's going to take years, if not decades, to get out of the system, because I'm seeing it at the high school, and I also see it with my younger daughter, and there's some struggles there. Blag cites several studies showing that student achievement and school funding are linked. And the less funding you have, the worse it is. The more funding you have, usually the better it does. And allow students to implement high-quality teaching and learning initiatives and develop school improvement plans that can exponentially improve student achievement. Let students have and schools themselves develop ways to best utilize that help and funding. The data-informed decision. Within the framework of the strategic school funding for Results, or the SSFR project. The AIR-PLP team will provide the data analysis, technical assistance, coaching, and training to implement the funding and governance strategies in the schools and will evaluate their success. So there are different programs out there that are data informed, and schools need to look at the objective and the subjective. More of the objective to see what are the actual needs of their schools within the district. Account keeping itself involves storing data so that it can easily generate reports and allow for future reference. So even the data within a district and the finances within each building and the district itself are crucial in helping make those decisions. States should boost their district leaders' ability to see financial data to drive spending decisions because that will yield the greatest benefit for students. If principals in their buildings and even the teachers know what funds are available, they can best utilize what apps, resources are out there to help their students. And last, use data to get smart on what their students need. Teachers need to look at the data and revamp and find ways to utilize that periodically and regularly. Equitable resource plans. There are various ways to address equity using academic achievement as a measure, along with graduation rates, suspension rates, and teaching staff. One of the most important parts that we're seeing today is truancy, and how important it is by having students in the classroom will help directly with their success. More equitable and adequate allocation of financial input to schools provide a necessary underlying condition for improving the equity and adequacy of outcomes. And last, creating the structures and incentives for improving the equitable distribution of teachers between high and low end schools. So it's best to take your teachers in their highly qualified areas and spread them out through a district, especially larger districts, instead of just allowing them to go to the more affluent areas or the ones that are higher achieving. Finance laws, policies, and regulations. The Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, requires financial transparency and may well put more demands on local school boards. So to be compliant with federal laws, with the ESSA and a few others, ADA, American Disabilities Act, you have to be transparent and upfront with it. Next, we have Benner says that in some cases, the formulas for states and districts distributing money are weighted, assigning more weight and therefore more dollars to students from low income backgrounds or to students with special needs when calculating the amount of funding. That is good to do if the money is allocated and used correctly to each district, each building as needed. State and local dollars actually comprise about 92% of all educational spending. The state and the school boards themselves should have the biggest say because they account for almost an entire majority of where the funding comes from. In other countries, financial training is required. Financial management is required and is critical in a school in order to instill good governance, accountability, and transparency in dealing with public funds. If there is a misallocation or misappropriation, that funding can cause a ripple effect in those districts for years and possibly even decades, depending on how bad the finances can be. What else we have learned is centralized and decentralized. Centralized is for a smaller select group within a district that makes the budgetary decisions for that district. It's usually a small select group. Decentralized is where administrators and small groups within each building, they are empowered to allocate funds in areas for each individual building, which meets individual needs of the students for that building. Here are my resources. Here they are continued. Here they are finally, and then let's get to the final part. What did you learn that you did not know? Various ways to look at the income sheets and how to better read them. Through the terminology, it really did help. I also learned in some of the sources and resources how some of the funds from COVID are being allocated and used. And then last, the importance of the principal, if the principal is actually empowered to do so, makes important financial decisions for the building as a district, which can have lingering effects positively if done correctly, or negatively, which could impact staffing and reductions in force, layoffs, all sorts of massive issues. How will this assignment influence the decisions you will make as a future leader? Honestly, it has made me a little bit more apprehensive about going into becoming a principal or administration. However, when or if I do become a principal, I will need to pay more attention to the finances of the school and the district itself. Moreover, I will also understand why many superintendents and principals look at the schools as a business or like a business, because if they don't, the schools themselves can be shut down due to too much debt. And that's one thing we really don't need. And finally, what concerns do you have about being in charge of your school's budget as a future leader? I do not have that many concerns, as long as I, the principal, will be empowered and give the power to the right people to have input, such as teachers, parents, and community members. In making some of the decisions, I will also need to remember to remove the emotion, because when you're dealing with fiscal and financial responsibility, emotion cannot have an effect if you're running a deficit. Thank you for your time.